So while coronavirus is still very much a threat, I have to say for the past 24 hours, I've thought a lot less about the virus and a lot more about the man charged with getting us through it.
The President of the United States calls the shots. When somebody's the President of the United States, the authority is total.
Well, obviously untrue, which we'll get to a little later, that was just one of about 24 head-spinning moments in yesterday's presidential press conference, which was chock full of not just megalomania, but anger and factual misrepresentations, and many of them came in what can only be described as a campaign video funded by taxpayer dollars, lasting nearly 4 minutes, largely ripped straight from Sean Hannity's show on Fox News. The video claimed it was the media that underplayed the risk of the virus and that it was Trump who took decisive action. The whole goal seemed to be embarrass reporters, taking nearly every clip out of context, but at least one reporter in the room picked up on a key point: the timeline between his January 31st travel ban and when he declared a national emergency on March 13th.
The argument is that you bought yourself some time and you didn't use it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now,
you're so disgraceful. It's so disgraceful the way you said it. Let me just listen. I just went over it. What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States? When you excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th. January. I said in January.
Your video has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban bought you?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3.
When in doubt, go to ratings. If you missed it, the president then pivoted to blame Biden and the Democrats again. And today he's carried on tweeting about the governors who don't want to reopen states too early, saying, quote, "A good old-fashioned mutiny every now and then is an exciting and invigorating thing to watch, especially when the mutineers need so much from the captain. Too easy. I can't be the only one concerned Captain Trump is acting like this is all a game, can I?" Thankfully, our local leaders have been far less cavalier, who've also been giving daily updates on the situation, which have been far more substantive, level-headed, and, dare I say, fact-based, as Governor Charlie Baker once again showed today.
Taking our foot off the pedal with respect to what we need to do to push back right now on this virus would squander, in many cases, a lot of the progress that we've made. We're a lot more interested in the work than we are in the noise.
I'm joined now by a guy who I think it's safe to say shares that view, Boston Mayor Walsh. Mayor, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
We learned in the last few minutes that a police officer in Boston has died from complications from COVID-19. What can you tell us, Mayor?
Yeah, a 52-year-old officer died in the line of duty. He came down with COVID-19 probably 2 weeks ago. He was in the hospital, and we were praying and pulling for him, and he didn't make it. He has kids and grandchildren, and he's my age, 53 years old. And I spoke to his family earlier today, and just a sad situation. If nobody's putting a face to it now or a seriousness to it, this should be serious. 53-year-old young man there that passed away.
And my understanding is another 5 or 6 dozen Boston cops have tested positive. Beyond your concern for their health, are you concerned about the public safety implications?
Not right now. I mean, the numbers, we still have a lot of officers that have come back to work that have passed the protocol. But certainly this disease, this virus is very serious, and we're concerned about the spread of this virus, and we've been talking about it. The numbers today, we went up another 200 in the city of Boston. We're at 4,200 now, and our death people who have died have gone up, and Jose will be in tomorrow's number, unfortunately, but it's a really very serious situation.
So, Mayor, yesterday or the day before, you said, I've watched over the last couple of days certain federal leaders talking about reopening the economy after May 1. That's not only unrealistic, that's completely irresponsible. Yesterday, the president said he had complete and total authority to order the reopening of the economy, not the governors, but him. What was your reaction to that?
I think he understands today, maybe after he went home last night, if he did read the Constitution, understand that's not the case. And listen, I'm not going to stand here and second guess what he's saying, but I think right now our focus needs to be on on stopping the spread of the virus. And every city and state in the country needs to be focused on that. And there's going to be a time where we all want to go back to work and have our economy back open. But I think spending an hour and a half yesterday on a press conference talking about his battle with the governors is inappropriate.
You know, I know you want to stay away from politics on this, and I respect that. However, when I watched that 90 minutes yesterday, I saw a man who I thought was wildly angry, totally out of control. Do you worry about his ability to do the job he's got to do vis-a-vis protecting 300 and some million American people?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we all have our disagreements behind closed doors, and inside City Hall I have them certainly. But when we're out in the public, we need to have a strong face on, and you need to be a leader. And yesterday, what he did not show of leadership qualities or character there.
How are things going in the city, particularly with the most vulnerable populations, homeless people, low-income people? I know you reported the other day that the incidence of COVID-19 amongst African Americans in the city is nearly twice their share of the population. What are we doing about this?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, our vulnerable populations are our seniors, our folks with pre-existing conditions, our homeless community, our folks that are struggling with addiction. Our communities of color, particularly African American, Latino, Asian, immigrants, white people. I think it's really important that we get message out there across the board. I think when it comes to our communities of color, we created a task force to look at data and look at the information on how do we respond in the communities where we're seeing these numbers higher. We're seeing higher numbers in East Boston, in Mattapan, in Dorchester, in the South End and other parts of the city. So we want to be able to respond to them, just like we did with the homeless community. We're able to create 1,000 beds for our homeless community. Some of it is to allow social distancing for people to live comfortably, and some of it is for isolation spaces, and some of it, quite honestly, is COVID-19, beds that people go into to get better on their feet.
So one of the other things that low-income people are concerned about is paying a mortgage, paying rent. What are you doing on that front, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we created a fund, people that are not eligible for the federal assistance, a $3 million rental assistance fund, and people can apply for that. We're also waiting for the stimulus money to come down from Washington. That's going to help folks. And we also have a piece of legislation right now at the State House that is preventing evictions and foreclosures. And I talked to the Senate President today, and I spoke to the Chairman of Ways and Means yesterday. And hopefully we can get that legislation done this week so we can help give people some comfort here.
I know you've gone out of your way, as Governor Baker said, you don't want to rush reopening, but I'm assuming that you are beginning to plan for what it looks like, when it happens, whenever that is. Are you, and what are you planning? A gradual reopening, a rolling reopening, certain industries? What are you thinking about?
Well, I think we have to base it on what the data shows us at the time. And with the surge here in Boston, the real big surge looks like it's going to be April 26th to the 28th. We're seeing in the last 7 days, our numbers double here in Boston. So certainly when we're ready to reopen, we're going to reopen. And I think Boston will come back strong. And I feel that we'll be able to move forward. But I think right now we honestly have to focus on what's in front of us, and that's stopping the spread of this virus.
One more thing about this, though. Are you not worried, I assume you are, about those businesses that won't reopen? I mean, the reality is, and I'm totally respectful of what you and the governor have said about deal with the health first and then we'll worry about the rest. But some people aren't going to be able to wait. Is that concerning?
You're absolutely right. And I think that there's been some legislation that's gone through the State House. There's a federal stimulus package that gets about $350 billion to small businesses. The unemployment from the state and the unemployment from the federal government allows people to be whole on their wages, as well as 1099 and subcontracted employees to try and keep the economy moving as best as possible. And then we also created a fund here in the city of Boston, the small business fund that we're able to try and help some businesses fill the gap. So I think we just can't not help them. But I'm with you. There's a lot of businesses, I'm afraid, that won't reopen. We have some great restaurants and things like that in our neighborhoods that are fairly new and living week to week. And these restaurants, their whole livelihood's in it. And unfortunately, a lot of these might not open again.
How hard has this been for you? I was thinking about you knowing you were coming on today. I'm saying if you make a bad decision in normal times, you fix it if you can later. You make a bad decision here, people may die. People may lose their business. They may lose their livelihood. How much does that weigh on you when you're making these decisions?
That's why we have to make the right decision, and we don't have the opportunity to make the wrong decision. And we have a mindset here in the city now. We brought in the McChrystal Group, and within 24 hours, we come up with a solution for a problem. And we need to make sure. That's why I'm going to take extra precaution. There might not be popular precautions. When I shut down construction, or when we shut anything down, we were criticized by some form or another by somebody. It's about keeping people alive, and we don't want a situation where we're burying a 53-year-old police officer or many people now that I know personally that have died because of COVID-19.
But how much are these decisions weighing on you when you go home at night?
Usually I don't take my job home at night. I said this in the past. I usually leave it on one side of the door and I go in and enjoy my family. For the last month, this job has come in the house with me every night. I think about it constantly. When I am not working here at City Hall, I'm constantly thinking about, are we making right decisions? What do we have to do to make sure people are safe? And I'm blessed. I have some great people around me here at City Hall, and we're working collectively as a team, and that's really important.
Before you go, people remember out of the horror of the marathon bombing came one Boston Day, which is, I think, is a wonderful thing. And I was surprised to hear that, well, I knew that tomorrow was the day, but that it would go ahead. How will it go ahead? How does one Boston Day operate in the time of coronavirus?
One Boston Day is a reflection of our strength as a city. And in 2013, after that horrible event, the bombing, where we lost loved ones and we lost so many people, lost a part of themselves that day. We rose up as a city, as Boston Strong, and then we created One Boston Day as a day of giving back. And tomorrow is a day of giving back by isolating, by staying to yourself, by helping your neighbor, by reaching out to people. There's a lot we can do tomorrow, and we're going to get through this coronavirus, and we're going to get through it stronger than we went into it. And just like those survivors, what was amazing to me, I was not the mayor on the 13th in 2013. I was the mayor 1 year later, and I stood at the finish line the 1 year after the marathon bombing, and I watched people run across that finish line. I watched them run across with Lindsay Lou's name on it, Crystal Campbell's name on it, Martin Rich's name on it, and Sean Collier's name on it, and on their back. And I remember seeing that. I remember watching a Marine running down the street, African-American Marine with a flag and a prosthetic leg on himself, and he ran the entire marathon. And that showed me who we are as a city, and we will get through this again. And tomorrow I ask everyone, if you don't know what to do, just say a silent prayer for everyone here that we get through this.
Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.